Welcome to tonight's episode of The Resupply, coming to you from the 2018 Brisbane International Laserforce competition. Since we are here in Australia, there may be some mature language, including use of bad words, like fuck and shit. So if those offended you, you should probably stop listening now. And just as another example, to get tonight started and put everybody in the right frame of mind, we're going to have another Australia-themed joke from Fireball DK. So, back in the 1920s, in the good old US of A, there were 3 condemned prisoners on death row, an Irishman, an Italian, and an Australian. The warden lines them up, all one after the other, says, all right, we're going to get this show on the road really quick. So, pops down the Irishman, lecture, and says, do you have any last words? He says, oh, bless me soul, I'm innocent, you should let me go. And warden says, take it like a man. All right, throw the switch. So I throw the switch, nothing happens. And it's like, oh, that's like a 1 in a million chance that was ever going to happen. All right, piss off, get the fuck out of here. You're good to go. So he lets the Irishman go, and he's all fine. So then he brings on the Italian and says, all right, fine, now it's your turn. You have any last words? And he says, hey, I'm an innocent man. Please, you should let me go. I just want to go see my kids. And warden says, hey, shut up. I don't need to hear any of that crap. All right, throw the switch. But again, nothing happens. And he says, fuck me. That's like a 1 in a trillion chance. There's no way that the chair wouldn't work 2 times in a row. All right, fine. Get out of here. All right. See you later. Finally, brings on the Australian. And he says, all right, you have any last words? And she says, well, first of all, mate, the chair's unplugged.
That was the most racist thing I've heard all day.
I think the accents alone is probably the most racist thing that's happened.
Oh my goodness.
Like, are you Super Mario? I just wanted to see my kids!
Fireball DK is a man of many talents.
Voices is not them.
Express elevator to hell.
Welcome back to the Resupply with me, Guy Next Door. Again, joined this evening after day 2 of the Laserforce Space Marines Internationals 2018 by a room full of people. Round table, we have
Morange.
Nimitz.
The Kraken.
Goatman.
Night Owl.
The man, the myth, the legend, Fireball DK.
I mean, you're probably the only person who can hype himself up, and it's not, like, lame.
It's not weird.
Yeah.
People are like, oh yeah.
Yeah.
That's my actual full name.
And it's still BS.
So as we end day 2, there's there's a lot of people walking around like they look like they have hemorrhoids or rickets or something. There's a lot of crippled people walking around.
No.
Well, we'll get to that.
Too soon.
I was watching Monkey Crap walk down the stairs at Laserforce today, and he looked like some sort of chicken. Like, he's all wide-legged, he's hunched over, he's got his head up, like he's doing like a weird shimmy thing, holding onto the rail, and some old lady walked past him and was like, oh, poor guy. But so at the end of today, we got through how many rounds today? Where are we in the bracket?
Round 1 is finished, and we've done the first
Half?
first
block.
part, the first block
first
of
block.
round 2.
Right. So we're making pretty decent time, right? Like we sort of.
Yeah, I mean, we're more than
exactly
halfway through.
We're exactly where we're supposed to be at the end of Tuesday. We finished a little bit early. There was a lot of drama today, which made us run. We were about 2 hours in front, and then we weren't 2 hours in front.
Yeah.
I think we finished with about half an hour.
Yeah.
off our normal end time. So I think we gained an hour and a half today somehow.
Yeah.
Even with all those elims.
There was some drama.
Well, we'll get into the drama soon, but first of all, Morange, why don't you give us a rundown of where the current standings are?
All right, so in first place, we have Golden Oldies on 54 points, and they are still currently undefeated to the surprise of absolutely fucking nobody.
I thought they dropped a game today. Or did they...
No.
That's
they
part,
did
that's
it
part of the
elim.
controversy.
That was
Excellent.
part of today's controversy.
So they have 18 games won and 16 elims, so they have not elimed twice.
Slack shits.
Second place, you've got Brisbane Heretics, 48 points, only lost so far is to the Golden Oldies. Golden Freedom Eagles, 42 points, have actually gained some points prior to Scythe's assertion that they would gain no points today.
Dirty liar.
Brisbane Bees are quite away actually in fourth at 32 points. Team Mana representing, not my team. That's misleading. On 26 points, they're quite far ahead of Brisbane Super Troopers and Oakley Raiders, both fighting for sixth with 14 points. Sacramento Star Guardians on 10, and New Zealand against all odds, living up to their name, having all the odds against them and having 0 fucking points.
So, I mean, 0-18 is pretty impressive.
Look, tomorrow we'll make it 0-27 and you'll see it.
I mean, to me, personally, there's some shock, standings at the moment after day 2. Probably not in the top 2 positions, but, I mean, we'll see what happens. There were some really cool games played today. There were some really shitty ones. But again, we'll get into that in a minute. So, DK, what sort of how are we looking for MVP stuff and whatnot?
Well, with the new and exciting addition of the time remaining element to the eliminations, which has encouraged faster eliminations in the maze, that has definitely pushed a lot of the Brisbane players to the top, especially the Golden Oldies. So a current top 5 in MVP. It is neck and neck race between Rusty and Taipan. Rusty is currently in first, averaging 25.75 MVP. Taipan's at 25.34, so very, very close. It's a bit of a drop from there down to Fredo, who's primarily played medic. So
Giant ginger bastard.
So let that go to show you that just because you play medic doesn't mean you can't rack up some MVPs. He's at
Sorry.
21.62.
You say you like the rest of us can pull that off.
Well, I mean, if I had Rusty on my team, sure.
Yeah.
Not to mention the next guy down the list, Tragedy at 20.89, and then the up-and-coming Sharpshooter at 20.53.
Well done.
Yeah.
And just to throw a 6-1 in there, Boom Train's pretty close to him as well. So.
Yeah, he's quite close at 20.35. That's a bit of a drop-off. But
I want to point out Scythe at 18.42 is the highest non-Brisbane.
yes.
That's true.
Yeah.
And Beans is right behind him, so that
that's-
rounds out the top 10. But the top 8 spots are all players who are either the Golden Oldies or the Brisbane Heretics.
So where are we kind of sitting at for meta kits?
That also is closely contested, the top 2 spots between, no surprise, Taipan and Rusty. Although in this one, Taipan is leading by 1 at 95 meta kits, Rusty's at 94. Then quite a bit of a drop-off all the way down to 75, and that's Striker on the Brisbane Bees. Then we have Sharpshooter on 71 and Tragedy at 66.
Shout out to Hoodlum using his teleporter to bust in and get 61 meta kits so far in the tournament. I hope that he takes it.
Including today getting, I think he got 4 or 5, while if somebody had breathalyzed him, he would have blown about 0.2. About a 0.2, I think.
Yeah,
he
but I
started the day
thought,
on.
that's kind of petrol for him.
It was petrol for us.
It was over.
At a
it was
certain
like
point.
Before 10 o'clock in the morning.
I just want to point out also...
we got pulled over and they put a breathalyzer in the window and the car. We would have been
We get the
done.
whole graftable constanoon.
Yeah. I also just want to point out Monkey Crap is an 8th on 57, and
Shot, bro.
his game from yesterday to today is just massively improved. He was just racking up incredible scores. It's like he's found his groove again, and that
Yeah, he
scares
really
me
has.
a little bit.
I think that's why he's crippled now.
He went too hard.
Yeah,
A lot
really.
of cripples scare me.
Yeah, they're all gnarled. So, what, you sort of alluded to some drama. Why don't y'all lay some drama on us? You start with Greg. You got any drama?
Well, I was part of Sacramento, so yes. Well, like, I don't even know what I don't know, because every time I'm near them, which I always am, it's just Autumn, and she's like, I fucking hate Aiden. And I'm like, why? And Aiden's like, what did I do? My dad's like, Autumn, quit being a bitch. And then...
Do any of them listen to this, or...?
And then, like, Morphin's just glaring at everybody the whole time, and Bronwyn's always on her phone. Not to call anybody out.
She says after she's called out every single member of her team, not to call anyone out.
But fuck, you're all.
She's pulling a DK.
I love you guys, but
That's the first callback of today.
Also, like, as far as non-sack drama, like, I keep hearing people complain about Taipan, because, like, I guess he's, like, annoying.
Correct.
And I don't know what he's doing, but I know that I have quarrel with him because he has my charger, my phone charger.
But he doesn't
What
know he has your phone charger.
And that's dramatic for me. And basically all I done today was terrorize the Twitch stream. So
So
Under my
basically,
name.
under your
under
name,
Nimitz's name.
Nimitz, stop trolling.
Yeah.
Yeah, for real.
right.
Get off the Twitch stream while you're in games.
I have it on my little screen.
Is that using
no kidding.
non-standard Laserforce equipment there?
Yeah.
You're right though. Like Gen 8 includes the Twitch stream on the back of the gun.
Yeah.
It's great.
I wish.
Basically, I think I need to be paying more attention to the surroundings because drama definitely plays a huge part in memes, and there hasn't been enough memes on the page.
I mean, but the ones that they have been are pretty excellent.
They're pretty good.
The Rusty one cracked me up the other day. That's pretty good.
yeah. For those who don't know, check out on Facebook the what's it called, Grack?
Space Marines memes for Lives Critical Teens. I say it because it's my meme page.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's Nimitz's page, and I just have admin.
Oh, right on.
It's me, Nimitz, and Wolfman.
If you want a good laugh, check that shit out, especially from last year.
Yeah.
So you guys are getting a free plug on
Yeah.
that because it is
Yeah,
quite
I
excellent.
think so.
I really want Pepsi Max to sponsor me. Please.
I want
Please.
Pepsi Max to marry me. I'm wearing my Pepsi shirt right now, but it says
Beppis.
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 Because her
For
Pepsi shirt is drunk.
For the dyslexic Pepsi drinker.
Finally, somebody has a shirt that's drunker than mine.
Alright,
But that's all I got.
so you guys were. What was the other thing? What's a couple major things happened today that were not so
there
great?
was the drama yesterday afternoon. We finished the night with the Brisbane A versus Cripan and the Pretenders. Brisbane not B because they're Bs, already got Bs, but the two Brisbane top sides.
Bees nuts.
And there was issues in that game where accusations were thrown around, and there was some unhappiness about a referee in the game who had stepped in to help out, because when the refereeing roster was done, the two most inexperienced reffing teams were left to ref these two most experienced teams playing, which often happens in tournaments, and it's a horrible
Saying
thing.
it was shit.
It was shit. So anyway, this morning when we went in to play the second half of that, after allegedly everybody had a good night's sleep. Allegedly.
Who was alleging that?
You slept on the floor, right?
I am alleging
Peanut gallery.
that
apparently.
allegedly it happened. So there were 3 penalties called in this game. 2 of them were back to back after one player chased Taipan and was penalised in game, and then Taipan chased him and was penalised in game. And then there was a third penalty after the fact.
Okay, let me give some context on this. So first of all, the penalties were very difficult to see because going across that skywalk into back tower, both the Brisbane Heretics and the Golden Oldies were just shuffling 4 or 5 players across at a time and getting tangled up like it was the fucking M1 or something. So it was virtually impossible to tell who was who. But I had only come in and come up to Green Tower because I noticed that we didn't necessarily have experienced refs up there. So those penalties got called. The consternation came in with the suspected post-game penalty on Taipan for possibly chasing tragedy. So, yes, and I'll cop a little bit to this in that...
You were on the Twitch stream?
What's that?
You were busy on the Twitch stream?
No, not this particular time. Right. Although one of the other refs did happen to be filming the incident, which meant that we had video replay. That's not really a precedent that we want to set, though, going forward.
That in itself is sort of a problem.
That is a problem because the referees' guidelines were specifically updated to say that referees who are refereeing should not have their phone.
Yes.
And it should not be being used.
Yes.
It is non-standard Laserforce equipment. The referees are not supposed to know the scores. So, I mean, not saying that this referee was sitting there streaming the Twitch stream, but it's something you can do, which is why we recommend that the referees don't have their phone. Also, it's a distraction. You're supposed to be watching the game.
Yeah.
Yes, this referee was watching, but
all that aside, during this sort of traffic jam, a player had run from the bridge across the skywalk into back tower. Taipan followed after that player and shot someone in the back tower, at which point I asked the other refs whether tragedy had come up, because tragedy was obviously the person who was missiled by Taipan because he screamed to the heavens like something had gone wrong. So I assumed that he was complaining about a potential chase. As it turns out, that's not what he was actually complaining about, but rather this odd kind of bug where it seems that on occasion with the Gen 8 suits, you'll run across a situation where your vest stays down for like 9 to 12 seconds instead of 8 seconds. Sometimes they seem... Yeah, does anybody else experience this? Because I've talked to about 4 different players where it seems in the middle of a game, your vest will be down longer than it should be. I mean, most of us are pretty aware of what 8 seconds looks like most of the time because we play so much SM5.
I just suck, man. I keep getting shot.
Yeah, don't get shot. Don't get shot, kids.
Keep your guns up. Don't get shot.
It's so weird. It keeps going like, and I stay down. I don't know what's going on.
Yeah, my chest keeps vibrating.
On the topic of getting shot, I forget who it was, but it's someone in this room. They told me the best way to stay safe from guns is to move out of America.
I mean, you're in the right place for that.
Yeah.
And no guns here.
Welcome to Laserforce.
Yeah.
But in any case, after conferring with the refs, my primary question was whether or not tragedy had come up. If it hadn't come up, I assumed it was a chase. What I should have asked was tragedy the person who ran into back tower? Because it seemed that it probably was not. It was probably Rusty. So the issue became very muddled. That on its own wouldn't have been a problem, except that the game was very, very close. In fact, the Brisbane Heretics had actually taken the game by, a few hundred points? Something like that. So any kind of shift with the post-game penalties, either rescinding one or adding one, would have flipped the outcome of the game. But in any case, penalty stood. Golden Oldies ended up winning the game on penalties, so they're still undefeated, but for obvious reasons. Taipan was a bit upset about it. Fortunately, we had Al here to calm everybody down, keep us on schedule, because that's just what he does, because he's a stand-up kind of guy like that. So that was
peacemaker, if you will.
That was the primary center of the drama.
That's my new suit.
Yeah.
There was some other consternation. In fact, it happened twice in one day that the Oakley Raiders also ended up losing a game on post-game penalties against the Sac Star Guardians as well. Yeah, there were 2 post-games that were called. One a shield on me that I don't even remember where it happened. It's supposedly around... I'm not going to say that it didn't happen. I just don't remember the specifics. And then something of a questionable chase that was called on Hoodlum, where he may have actually been...
No, it was a blind fire.
It was.
There was the chase one, and then there was the blind fire one as well.
Yeah, but in any case, that caused us to lose the game. But I take my hats off to the Sax Guardians. They played that game very well. I don't think we played particularly well. At least I didn't play particularly well, so I'm willing to soak up that loss. Because that's the other thing, is that in these close games, yeah, it sucks to...
Whose team is that one?
The Sac
the
Bees.
Sac
So you
guys.
guys won.
Yeah.
Good shit.
Yeah, they took
Yeah,
them
no,
off.
they did good. That wasn't, no, it was the other game where we got Kodama down to 1 life, and I missiled him with 2 seconds left, and if I had someone else double tap him as I was doing the missile, we could have got the elimination. But, oh well, stuff happens.
To go on back on something that was brought up, obviously, during that, there was a conversation outside of the rest room that basically, with the whole recording thing, that, well, if we're going to review a penalty on a recording, how has no one else been... That's sort of unfair to every other team who want to contest a penalty.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And don't have that thing. The fact is, there is opinions that video footage should have never seen the light of day in theory, because how... You're like, well, sure, we want to ref this fair, but how was that fair on every other team that's contested a penalty throughout the
And
tournament?
and it ultimately did not make any difference on the bearing
Well, that's good to hear.
of the refs and the decisions that were made. Really, the principle that we agreed on between the other captains, and especially Thanatos and Baden, 2 of the most experienced refs, that we really need to emphasize that referee decisions, especially by the head refs, stand. So we don't have 2-hour discussions that take us off topic and lead to, in some cases, pretty negative interactions between individual players and referees, who can sometimes be intimidated or silenced by the more experienced players because they think, oh, well, if I'm going to cop a bunch of shit for calling this penalty, what's even the point? Why should I do it? We really want to encourage an atmosphere where if players believe they see an infraction, they should penalize players. They're going to get things wrong sometimes. It happens in every professional sport. If you end up losing a game that gets flipped because of penalties, it's unfortunate. It's unfortunate, but next time, win by more, so the penalties won't matter as much, is all I can say.
Yeah, you jerks.
Yeah. There was also, do we want to talk about the 10,000 point deduction? So this is more drama. So it was
Rusty versus...
it was Golden Oldies versus whatever we're calling the Brisbane bottom team.
D team.
Sorry, guys.
What?
Yeah.
Oh.
So, from what it seems is that Rusty put a chase on Angel, which was not called in game, but afterwards was actually found that it was over 3 meters. That was actually measured by Taipan. So, she, to put it lightly, flipped her shit. Was not happy. And I was a ref in that game, and she screamed, like, I don't think she screamed anything bad, but she was not happy is one way of putting it. So, we are having our refs meeting at the end of the game, and basically, Taipan comes in, and says basically, what happened, well, we were in the refs room, and we haven't noticed is that she has come out and started just yelling at Rusty, like, apparently abusively. I was not there. So Taipan comes in and says, right, so he wants to add an extra 1,000 for illegal language and an extra 10,000 for conduct, which I originally heard as 2,000. I thought it was 2,000. I thought that's not bad, and I wrote that down. I'm like, oh, 2,000? They're like, no, 10,000, which I had to stay standing a little bit there. For unsportsmanlike. Look, obviously that was not flipping any kind of decisions or wins or whatever. But yeah, that was, in terms of penalties, kind of a major point of the day. In terms of, well, the fact that it was 10,000 points.
It's pretty, I don't know if, again, I wasn't there, so I didn't hear what she said, but unless she was, like, racist or, like, threatened him with a knife, like...
I spoke to her afterwards, and of course, on reflection, I don't think that I think that she would agree that she didn't handle it the best that she possibly could.
That's one way of putting
but
it.
That's very diplomatic.
Always the diplomat.
Old peacemaker.
But there were a lot of overreactions today to situations where perhaps a good night's sleep would have made it a little bit different.
So overrated.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah,
sleeping.
but here's everybody not getting good night's sleep.
Yeah, and recording
But
a podcast.
I want to
Like,
say
budget.
I want to say that a lot of the drama today has been Brisbane related, and they're mainly between two Brisbane teams playing. Not to hate on all you Brisbane guys that might be listening.
I love you guys, but
But it is a problem in that Brisbane are the most experienced because they play league and they referee every week.
and are also competitive.
And they're,
which
they're
has
very
its pluses
competitive
and
amongst each other.
minuses.
They all
Plus and minus.
they all want to beat Rusty's team. They all want to beat Taipan's team. Taipan's team want to beat
And they
Rusty's
don't want
team.
to lose to the travelling teams.
And they don't want to lose to the travelling teams.
Well, I haven't seen them flip their shit as much against the travelling teams.
No, they really do. They really today flip their shit against each other.
Look, because there's obviously a lot of history between certain players. I'm not going to say because I don't know 100%, but these guys play every week, and obviously when you meet people, you form likes and dislikes to certain people. A lot of us travelling players, you know, they're not going to know us well enough to probably hate us that much. Some exceptions included, obviously. But they're going to have more beef and they're going to agitate more against other players from Brisbane. Like if it's a decision that goes against one of our teams, they'll agitate, but they won't blow up about it as they have. That could be wrong, but that is what I've experienced in my first two tournament days.
You're always most competitive, and in some cases, more likely to blow up the people that you're closest with. Since we have representatives from SAC Star Guardians, know that sometimes there's a lot of infighting within families in particular. So sometimes, you know, you feel a little bit more comfortable, you know, giving your mates and giving your family shit as opposed to other people. So
It's like a civil war.
a bit.
Or like Captain America Civil War. I love that movie.
It was so sad.
We have Duckman and his Captain America onesie over here.
Yeah.
Team Iron Man, motherfucker. Anywho, so
Sorry, we've still got another point in drama that we haven't covered, which is
Oh, boy.
Baden's right knee.
Well, that's
Well, that's not drama
That's
per
not
se.
drama. So those two were the main instigative drama points, but that slowed us down by probably a good. I thought there was 3, but I can't remember what the third one was. It's a good 45 minutes that slowed us down today.
one of them. What sucks is we were in the maze as the team that was supposed to play after the Golden Oldies and Heretics played. It was our bench.
Yeah.
And it's I don't know, when you get into the airlock and you're waiting and you know you're hyped for the game, you've got a certain amount of adrenaline that kicks in, and if you're standing there for 10, 15,
It goes
20
off.
minutes,
Yeah.
it's exhausting.
The problem with that was, of course, that we had put players in to that game because of what had happened the night before. We made the conscious decision to make sure we had more experienced referees.
Which was the right call.
Yes.
Which meant, unfortunately, that players were caught up in the refs room who should have been playing.
That's right.
And that delayed things, of course. And then, of course, you add to that the 2 games. One game had to be replayed. One game was forfeited because of injury. And so Baden, you know, why am I dislocated now, Brew? Had a falling incident at the bottom of the back tower where he went round the corner. Well, he went round the corner, but his knee didn't go round the corner
Well,
or
so
something
what do you
like
want me,
that.
because I was literally looking at him as
Beautiful.
it happened.
I was not there.
So it was funny. Well, sort of. not the incident itself.
Not for Baden.
Schadenfreude at one.
Myself and Than were the referees in back tower, and originally we walked in there. I was standing in front of back tower, and he was standing on the ramp. And he said, "Oh, we should switch." Like he didn't say it, but it was basically because he's a more experienced ref, and that was completely fine. He didn't say it at the time, but I did joke with him afterwards. That's why. But so we switched. So I'm looking down back ramp, which is where the incident happened. So Baden basically tries to dodge a shot. His knee gives out. And he falls over and rolls down the ramp. Which was... And so basically, my first thing was, oh, Baden's down. Like, sort of a, you know, oh, is he all right? Don't shoot him. And then I saw him yelping in pain. I said, oh, no, he's not fine.
Yeah.
As someone who has dislocated my knees, I saw exactly what he was holding. Like, oh, fuck, I know what's happened here. So I yelled out to him. I sprinted down the ramp. And yeah, It was not pleasant.
He basically said, I was lying there and I was like, right, I have 15 seconds to pop my knee back in place before I pass out from the pain. And
Actually, when we got to the bottom of the ramp, he said, "I don't know if it's back in." Like at first, and then we looked and we're like, "No, it's back in. It just it hurts like a motherfucker." Bro, you haven't lived it. It is the single. Well, I say single. It's happened 4 times. It is the 4 single most painful experiences of my life.
It sounded horrific. He looked in a really bad way. It was
didn't he? He
brutal,
did
man.
not.
That is, yeah, it is.
Brutal.
But basically,
Yeah.
Excellent.
But on a serious note, he was on the floor for about 5 minutes before he stood up.
And we had called an ambulance.
Yeah, and
Tilly had quickly called an ambulance,
Which is
she
awesome.
called off.
Yeah.
But because he said that he had done this injury before, and it was common.
The staff were really quick. The refs were really great to get in
It was
I
really
think
well handled, I think.
It
from
was.
the
It
referees
was.
and from the Laserforce staff.
People
point of
gave
view.
him space. Like everyone
It was-
backed off. And,
yeah.
it
I
was
think
really
obviously, a few people came down to look. Obviously, Rusty came down, which is fair enough, family and all that. But yeah, it was. I think because I joked with Dan afterwards, I'm like, see, we switched positions, so you're the more experienced ref and the more action. But then in the end, I got all the action in my ref spot.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad. I'm glad he's all right. He ended up playing.
Later in the day, he
Later
played
in the
another
day.
match.
With a very heavily strapped knee, but yes.
Well, I asked him at the end of the day, how's it feeling? He says it's sore as hell and it's going to be worse tomorrow. And he's like, every time I make a jump shot, it's just.
He's got that.
Stop
attempting
making
to jump.
Yep. No, look, I agree with that.
He's got a pirate pig leg swag.
Why you should stay grounded, Brew?
Still more graceful than Fireball DK.
Oh, I love you, DK Bot. Oh,
This is why I like when Greg's on the podcast.
For once, DK's silent.
he's trying to think of a
I just got fucking burned, bro. Better.
Got too close to the fireball, did you?
And that match, of course, was probably halfway through, so we had to replay that match. But there needed to be a delay, of course, with Baden needing to be taken out of the maze.
Yeah.
And then 3 games later, it wasn't many. Hoodie, sober finally, ran into a wall and twisted his knee.
Oh,
in
No,
the-
no. He did not run into a wall. He
He
tripped
did that
over
all by
someone's
himself.
foot.
Oh, sorry.
One might even say that there was a slight bit of karma in this kind of injury, since, someone tripping over a foot possessed by maybe hoodlum led to the renaming of some area of the Brisbane arena. I'm just saying.
So what you're saying is we've got DK's Folly, DK's Folly 2.0, and DK's Revenge.
Correct.
So I mean,
You're not supposed to take your own team
He's
out.
like that
what was there any other major injuries or anything today? Like, there are a lot of people.
There's a lot of sore people.
No, we've also
Oh,
got another
and,
one. So, against
Lone
all
Star.
odds, also living up to the name of everything going against us, not salty.
Hashtag not so.
Yeah, one of our best players rolled his ankle in the very first game and did not play for the rest of the day. We do not know if he's even fine for the rest of the
What a
tournament.
pussy.
I mean,
Oh hey man.
yeah.
He's not even here. Oh, that's lame.
I mean, I hope he gets better because finding a replacement every game is a pain in the ass, but also because he's my friend.
Yeah.
But no, he's not in a good way either. It's just surprising. We didn't have any injuries day one that I can think of, but we've had a lot today.
Cookie got injured in
Yeah.
Oh, she got injured at the very
she
end
did.
of day
right
one.
at the end of the day.
But she's back and playing now, so
Hopefully.
she played the last game the Brisbane Bees played.
Also with a heavily strapped ankle.
Yeah.
Yes.
I did see.
She was out at the start of the day.
Yeah.
I did see Tom almost give himself a concussion. He's standing on the vortex, and there's a archway above the entrance from Red Tower into the bridge, and he's looking into the blue tower, and he's gone to dodge a shot and just swung his head around and smashed into like a pole. And he's like, it was terrible because I got punched in the ear, and that's like literally the worst place to get hit. I was like, it could be worse. But yeah, I think he got off lucky there. I was actually looking at that spot the game before and was like, man, I'm glad I'm not tall enough to smash my head on that.
Stay away from the vortex if you're 6'12" like Tom is.
Being shortest for the week.
I actually aren't you the shortest person at this table?
No.
I'm 5'11".
Sorry.
That's
Yeah.
DK again.
Featherweight
Sorry,
GK is
everyone's
shorter.
just short in my eyes. So.
Sorry, Yipsty.
Dear. And so all of these things made us really late.
Yeah.
While I was at lunch with the Yanks and some of the guys from Golden Oldies, we had a discussion about perhaps stopping early, which didn't really happen because of these delays. Everything ended up finishing what would have been on time for Tuesday, but we were in front.
Good thing we were so far in front.
It is a good thing we're so far in front. Because
That's
it
why
put us
you
a
get
long
ahead
way
on day
behind.
one.
Exactly right. And whoever worked out the MVP points for Elims, thank you very much, because some of these games, or at least day one, there was a lot of quick games being played. And
Except for when that's your set period and you're sitting for 5 minutes, you're like, oh fuck, I have to go back in and play already.
I think that was Chris, Scorpion Chris,
Yeah.
wrote that in, and Russell, of course.
yeah, shout out.
Shout out to Russell and all the great work he does with LF Stats.
Absolutely.
And he wrote the algorithm or whatever to rip the timing off the printouts.
One of you motherfuckers says passer, I'm gonna punch you in the face.
I don't know what the fuck that means.
Exactly.
Pasta.
Yeah.
Yeah, he ravioli all over those stats.
I just want to say, earlier I was looking at the board and I thought it said gay next door, and I was
No, that's my Friday night code name. Streetwalker next door.
So they bought the blue suits in for you.
So anyone who hasn't so this is the thing. Anyone who hasn't experienced Richard laughing before, that when he laughs this hysterically, you can say anything that is even slightly remotely funny, and he will go.
It's over.
You can say like it can be just not even like minorly funny, and he will just keep going until you stop or until he runs out of air, which I have tried. Apparently on the same boat.
Why am I choking brew?
Breathing is optional.
Oh, my fucking face hurts.
See, look, it's not even that funny, but he's gone. Anything, and he is losing his shit here on the couch. That is one of my favourite attributes of my brother.
Oh man. Yeah, he's dead. He's gone.
All right, well,
He's got tears. He's laughing so much. He's got tears.
He's gone past the point of laughing to just crying.
Oh man.
all right. So,
Just wrap it completely there.
all right, so that's probably good enough for day 2. We'll come back on day 3, but for this evening, I've been gay next door. And remember, kids, always remember to backtrack. We'll see you tomorrow.